Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make a source engine model with Blender. Now first, I'm assuming you already have Blender, but if you don't, you can download it off of Steam or you can just download it off their website. Either one works. And do change your version to 4.0 or below, because the next thing I'm going to have you do is download Blender Source Tools. So this is a plugin for Blender, which allows you to export source engine models or import source engine models, and edit them and whatever. And so this is required. Now the problem with this is that this newer version does not work at all. Okay, this new version, 3.3, doesn't allow you to export models, and that's why you have to use 4.0 or below, because this one's for 4.1 and above. And Blender changed something with how smooth shading works, so that's why they updated it. And so you just can't use it. So instead, hit Release Archives down here, and then you want to download 3.26 right here. After you download Blender Source Tools, open Blender. And once you've opened Blender, go to Preferences up here, go to Install, go to your downloads and locate the zip you just downloaded. So I have it right here. And then you press Install Add-on. Let me show you how to make a model. So let me just, make something here first, right? I'm gonna put a cube. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you make. It could be anything really. Okay, so once you have finished your model, it shouldn't matter what it looks like. It's all good. So you want to make a new collection up here. You want to title it, whatever the name of your model is going to be. So I don't know what this is. We're just going to call it Weird Cube. Weird _ cube. Oh, Cuber, that works too. And you want to put your cube object into that collection. It kind of works by collection. So if you export just it exports anything under the collision when you go to export. So Weird Cuber will be anything under here. So if I duplicated this, now the model will be both of these cubes. So now that you have your model and it's in the collection here, you're like, oh, I need materials. Or I'm assuming your model already has materials, but add a material here, make your material. So your material here, whatever you call it, let's just call it Weird Cube Texture, right? So this is going to be the name of your VMT file. This is what the model is looking for, the name of the texture. It's looking for this texture name here to actually apply it in game. Okay, so now, get your image. So now it has a texture over it. So, okay, you have your model now, you have it all textured, you have it named, everything's good. But I want collisions too, right? So how do you do that? Okay, so you make a new collection. And, like this collection here, this is going to be the file for the model itself. And so basically it exports this collection as a single SMD. SMDs are the raw model file, I guess. So I would just recommend calling it the same thing as the other collection, but then do an _ collision at the end, just to, differentiate the two. You want to just make a simple collision model. Now, your collision has to be convex. Every shape in your collision has to be convex, right? So imagine you're making a map out of brushes, okay? Imagine you're making your collision model out of brushes, because that's basically how Source works. It's the same way. So, okay, actually, I'll show you. I'll give you an example here. So this is one cube. If I were to go like this or something, this would not work. However, I want a more complex collision model. I want all this to be separate collision. Okay, so make your collision model on all this then. So like this. You'd make a collision piece for every convex collision piece for every bit that you want to have collision, right? The more collision pieces you have, the harder it is on computers to render it and solve the physics for it. So just so you know. Okay, so everything's mapped out here. We have this many convex collision pieces. So now you think, okay, I'm done. This is all good. I don't need to do any more. I can just export this and it'll work. Wrong, okay? Why? Look at this. Oop, don't look at that. Look at this. You see when I press on one of these collision pieces, the origin of the thing is at the center of the collision piece? That's no good, okay? The problem is, if you export it like this, there'll be like a weird offset to this, so it'll be like down here or something. It's not gonna be good. So, really simple fix, hit A, hit Control A, all transforms. Easy as that. And now look, every origin is at the center, or every object origin is at the world origin. Once you have your collision model done, you want to select all of it. After it's been applied the transforms, you want to shade it all smooth, because source works in a way which the collision model needs to have smoothing groups on it, and so now everything's good. It's going to have no offsets, no weird deformities. It should be all good. And now we can actually export this, okay? So how you do this is you go to this, whatever this is, the scene tab. Go to Source Engine Export, select your export path. I'm just gonna go to my downloads, and then go to, so there's two different model formats. Like I was saying earlier, there's SMD, which is, you know, the raw model data, but DMX is also raw model data. Now the difference between the two, you know, it's not very out there, that information. Now through my own testing, I've found that DMX has higher like limit values. So with DMX you can do more bones, more certain things, and it's just the newer the newer file, right? So I just use SMD because it's what I'm used to, but DMX, it should also work the same, just saying. So hit SMD or DMX, whichever you want, and then hit export, and you see how, what I was saying, it's gonna export weirdcuber collision.smd, and that's this collection here, which has all of these collision pieces. And so you see, if I press export, there's only the collision. What am I gonna do? What if I want to actually export my model? Well, you actually have to select it in here, and then you're able to export it. So now I exported both of these, and now if I go to my downloads here, you can see I got both SMDs here. So now you have your two model files. Awesome. How does this become a model now for the game? I'll show you. You need to make a new file, a new text file called, well, whatever your model is called. So weird, oops, that's caps. Weird cuber, right? And then you got to make it a .qc file. Now the .qc file is basically like, it's the commands, you know, it's the commands to make the model. Or, I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of just like telling the compiler what to do, right? So open your QC file, and you're basically typing it all in here. I'm gonna leave a sample QC file in the description, because honestly, it's a lot to write and a lot to remember, and I don't write all my QC files from scratch because the formatting is a little like inconsistent sometimes, and it's just faster to just copy and paste something in there. Okay, so here's the sample QC. I'm gonna just change some things. So under model name, this is gonna be where your model is compiled and what the name of the model is gonna be. So just for the example, we're gonna do tutorial, and that's gonna be, so it's gonna be under models/tutorial in your files, and then tutorial/ we'll do weird cuber, because this is the name of the model. So it'll be going under, so there's an invisible models/ here, which it automatically puts it under model/. Just know that the model is automatically going under your models folder in Garry's mod, and then adding another folder here with whatever you want, okay? Scale, I mean, that's self-explanatory. I don't even think you need this parameter if you don't want it, but. So body, this is the SMD file for your model that you made. So it'll be weird cuber. And you see how everything starts to just work easier when you name everything the same, because you could just like copy and paste this and just be like weird cuber underscore collision, just that easily, because you named everything right and proper. cdmaterials here. This is where the model is looking for textures. So you know how I had the weird cuber underscore texture or whatever in the shading tab? This is where it's going to be looking for that VMT that's named to weird cuber dot underscore texture or whatever. And now you need to specify models, because it'll be going under materials, which is like the start folder, materials, which is invisible here, then models, and then you want to put tutorial or whatever your thing is, and then weird. All right, don't put anything after that. It's just because it's looking in that folder for the name of the texture, which is defined in the SMD I showed earlier. So then sequence idle. So every model that you make needs to have a sequence, and a sequence is basically just like an animation for the model. Just know you need a sequence for your model, okay? And all I'm doing here is setting the sequence to the model itself. And it's because all animation files are SMD files also. So we're just setting it to itself. Surface prop, I will leave a link to the description of all material surface props and also all the parameters you can have in a QC file. But for surface prop, you know, this is the sound when you walk on it, when you shoot it, when you hit other props against it. This is like defining the material, I guess. We'll just do wood, okay? And then collision model. So as you can see here, the collision model looks a little different than everything else here. And that's because the collision model parameter is like a nested, like, I don't know how, I'll just show you here. So collision model, and we're setting it to the weird cuber collision, which is what I exported earlier. And that's the other SMD file. And you see how we have these brackets here? This is like the properties of your collision model. So this is the properties of the model. This is the properties of the collision model, right? So max convex piece is 36. This basically just... So, okay. Source has a limit for how many convex pieces can be in your model. So if I go back to Blender here, you see how I have all these pieces here? 7 pieces, right? Source has a limit, which is pretty low, actually. An artificial limit that they put, which you can change in the QC file, but they had that limit there, and I always just add that just so I don't have to worry about it, right? And so that's why we have that. And the @concave, or the money sign concave parameter, is basically saying that the collision model is concave. So how I was saying earlier, we have 7 convex pieces, which all together make a concave collision model, right? And this is what we're defining in the QC. And then I'm going to add another one here just because I don't have it here. If you're making like a physics model, or a model that is physics, like a prop physics, then you want to add mass, right? You want to know how heavy it is. Now you can manually define the mass. I could set this to 10,000, right? But you know, you probably don't know the mass of your model just off the top of your head. So source actually has a feature here. If you do auto mass, which as the name suggests, it calculates the mass based on the size of the model, the surface prop you set here, and it's usually fairly accurate. Now I will say that if you want the player to be able to pick up the object with E, then you're gonna have to put mass, and you're gonna have to put like less than 25, I think, or 20, because more than that the player is unable to pick up. And then yeah, there's more stuff you can add to this if you wanted to, you know. I will say one thing here: if you wanted to have like multiple skins on your model, you do texture group. So I'm actually just gonna look at the Valve developer wiki here, because like I said, I don't know. I mean, I can figure it out, but I don't really want to type it in manually. So, again, I'm going to leave a list of every QC command in the description. This page here, which has all of them. And anyways, texture group here. So I'm just going to copy this just so it's easy. Now, texture group. This allows you to have multiple skins, right? So texture group, and then you want to define a name here for your group, I guess, but it really doesn't matter because no one's gonna see that. It doesn't matter. You can put anything. So I'm gonna put anything. Oops. Anything, right? Now, you want to define your skins for your model, right? So your default skin, your first skin, you know, the skin that starts off on your model. You want to have this to be the same name as what you put in Blender that's in the VMT, right? Here. This weird cube texture, right? You want to have that. Because otherwise, your original texture won't even show. Okay? So then once you have that, you need to have whatever skin you want on your model. So say I made a skin for this, which was like different roof tiles, right? You would add like an O2 or something. Whatever you name that file, the new skin file, you just want to put that VMT name here. And that VMT acts completely separate from the original one. So you can actually just change all the details in it. You could define a different normal map. You could define different like Phong parameters, for example. Like, it's actually a pretty cool thing. Now our QC file is done. Once you have your QC file done, you're gonna want to download Crowbar, and I'm gonna leave a link to it in the description. You want to download it right here, and then once you download it, it should open up like this. You want to go to Setup Games, and you want to go to Garry's mod, and just, I don't know if there's stuff to actually set up here, but whatever. Once you've done that, go to Compile. So, the awesome thing about Crowbar is Crowbar actually has a lot of different features here. You can decompile models, so like if you extracted models out of the game, you can decompile them to view like the QC file and their SMD files and everything. And you can also compile models here. You can preview models or view models, and so if you browse to see your file and you press view here, it'll open the model browser, and you can like look at your model and everything. Right now we want to focus on compile. Okay, you're compiling your .qc file, the command file you made. You want to browse. Oop, the wrong one. You want to go browse, and you want to double click your QC to open it. Okay, all good. Hit compile, and you see how it all works now. We're gonna go into VTF edit. Okay, here's the texture. So we're going to go to save as, and you want to go to the file path which you defined in your QC file, which is right here, model/tutorial. So you want to go to materials, models, and then I wonder if I have a folder called tutorial already. I do. Tutorial. There we go. Oh, who would have thought? That's from my old tutorial. Anyways, let's do weird cuber texture. Okay, so save your VTF, and then go to tools, create a VMT file, and this is actually what the model is looking for. It's looking for the VMT file, not the VTF file. So you want to go to vertex-lit generic, and what vertex-lit generic is it's the shader for models. And because models don't have light maps, they have vertices, right? And so the vertices is like, it's lit per vertice instead of by a texture, a separate light map texture. So that's basically all you need here. So then save it. I'll also show you if you wanted another skin, right? So how I set it up earlier is I had weird cube texture and weird cube texture _2. So that would basically be like having this, right? _02, and it would be looking at this file for the other skin. Okay, so now the texture should work. We go to view, and we go to browse, and we find the file here in our models here, tutorial. See, it's under models tutorial, and then weird cuber. You press view down here. There you go. Oh, okay. Another thing, I will. So yeah. Anyways, you can see that the collision's all there. It's all nice. You know, it's solid. But what's happening here? Why are these faces all weird and see-through? That, my friend, is because of bad normals. Now I will explain this as simply as I can. Normals are like another feature of your model, I guess. Every face has a normal, and it's basically to determine what is on the what can be seen and what can't be seen. The problem is, sometimes when you're working with a Blender, normals get like inverted, and so this happens. You can just see through the wrong side, because we wanted to see the other side of this face, but basically the model it gets rid of the face, the side of the face inside, because for performance reasons. Now you can actually see this if you go up here. If you go to face orientation, it's red because this is what's supposed to be like disappeared. There's a simple fix for this though. Press on your model, go to the edit tab, hit A to select everything. Make sure you're on face mode. Hit Alt N, and then go to recalculate outside, and this will recalculate the outside normals. And now everything's good. Now we can export and do the scene export again. Compile the model real quick. Go to the model viewer, refresh it, and look, it's all good. And now if I wanted to hammer real quick, so let's search up weird. There it is, weird cuber. Now, another thing with models is the scaling of them, right? This thing is tiny. It's tiny, right? Now, my suggestion for that is one Blender unit in here is one hammer unit. So if you want to use that scale, you can. But I usually make a scale model in hammer. So like if I wanted this to be 64 by 64, I'd make a cube that size, and then I would use proper, which is another tool, and so it exports the SMD of this. Now I'm not going to do any of that because it's kind of annoying. Instead, I'm literally just going to select everything. Make sure you select your collisions too. Hit S to scale, and we're going to go to 10 to make it 10 times bigger. Now we're going to export again, scene export, and you can get really fast at this. And then compile it real quick. Go here, refresh, and you see how it's bigger? If I go into Hammer++, since it automatically changes, it's bigger. Alright, now I'm going to be showing you how to make a jointed model. Okay, jointed meaning a model with bones, with an armature. You might not need to use this, but this would help with ragdolls, with models with animations, So I'm just going to show you how to do a basic setup with collision, okay? Let me just set it up. So, add in a bone. So how source works is you have like a root bone, and this bone controls everything. It's like the main bone, right? And I don't really think it works for an animation on its own. So you want to make another bone, right? Now, let's just say I'm trying to make a ragdoll here, right? If you want collisions, the general rule of thumb is one bone per one collision piece, because a bone in source can only control the entire piece. It can't control individual vertices. So, with in like Blender, I could select all 4 of these vertices to make this face and have this bone control, and it would be like this, right? But because it's convex and it's source, you can't do that. So let's just make another bone to here, which will control this and this, these 2 collision pieces. All right, I'm gonna put this armature into the weird cuber collection, and then I'm going to hide the collision model just so I don't need to see it, and then parent these armature deform, and then essentially I'm going to select this and select this, go to weight paint, and then I want to select this top bone, and then go to edit mode real quick just so I can select the vertices I want to be moving. Select vertices here, make sure weight's 1, and then hit Control X to apply all those. Oops. Control X to apply all those, and now when I move this, it should move all these. Yes, it does. But then how does the collision model work into this? Now, you want to select all the collision pieces and then join them. And then once they're joined, you want to do the same thing with armature deform. But now, I want you to go into edit mode, select everything, and then press separate by loose parts. So now it'll just undo what you just did with the join, but now everything has the armature modifier. So now you want to select the skeleton, then select one of your armature, your collision pieces. Go to weight paint, go to the vertice up here, the vertice one, and hit Control X to apply all the way. Oh, hit A also to select all the vertices. Then hit Control X to apply the weight, and then do the same for this one. A, Control X, and there you go. So now this bone should be moving these vertices here, you know, all those, and then also should be moving these two collision pieces, right? So now if I tested it, indeed it does, right? Okay, so now this should all work. So export your new files, the collision and the normal one, the normal model SMD. Now the main difference comes with the QC file, all right? So I would just remove static prop entirely now, because this model cannot be static no matter what, because it has bones. Okay? Actually, it could be, but the bones won't work at all. Okay, none of the animations would work. And now you want to go to collision model down here, and instead of having collision model, you want to have collision joints. All right. Now instead of pieces, it's joints, so it works per bone, like I was saying. And you can have these, and then instead of concave, you want to have concave per joint, I believe. And so now the model should be able to be compiled, and actually I'm going to test it real quick. Indeed. And now if I went and refreshed this model, and then went to render and then bones, you can see we have two bones here. So I'm going to make a quick animation here. So like I was saying earlier, the animations are just other SMD files. So make a new animation, call it whatever you want the animation to be called. So animation tutorial, and then animate the things. So now it does a little jiggle like this, I suppose. And that's basically all you need to do. Because now if you go to source engine export and you have the armature selected up here, actually you can just go to source engine exportables, and then you see here how it's anims / animation tutorial.smd. That's the animation file. And you can change the subfolder. So you know, if you are just using the default anims folder, at some point you're gonna have like a crossover and you're gonna override another file. So I usually like to have like tutorial anims, just so it's different. Okay, only select the armature, and then it's still not working. Why isn't it working? Okay, just do a scene export then, because it's not wanting. Usually when you select the armature, it should export the animation right here, but just do a scene export to export their collisions, your cube model, and your animation. Now if I go back into my files, you can see here tutorial anims have been made, and I got animation tutorial right here. So now in my QC file, you know, I was saying earlier how there's this sequence here, right? Well, if you copied that over and then called it, you know, I think I called it tutorial animation or something, and that's gonna be the name of your animation. And then you want to have, it's kind of like the collision model text, as it has like these brackets, you know. And then inside here, you want to have the name of your SMD for your animation. So that would be under tutorial anims / animation tutorial. And so this is basically looking under my folder where I have the animation tutorial file. And then you also have FPS, and I'm going to put this at 60. And this is basically, you know, how fast the animation plays in frames per second. Another thing I like to add is fade out and fade in values. So this is basically like, it smooths out your animation when it plays. So like if you're working on an NPC or something, this animation would fade in from a different animation within 0.2 seconds. So it has like a little smoothing, you know? So it's nice. We're gonna see if it works. It seems to have worked. Once I compiled, we're going to view the model, and we're going to go to sequence, and in here now we have tutorial animation. So you can see it jiggle around like how I animated it in Blender. And if you go to physics, yeah, so you can see that the collision pieces are moving when I turn on the hit boxes, right? Or the collision boxes. So yeah, that's how you make a jointed collision model with animations. You can see it's moving, and the collision model, it's not looping. The collision model kind of lags behind actually, but I guess that's just a problem with source. But if I stood under it, it moves me, you see? So yeah, that's how you make a jointed collision model. Pretty nice, right? So I hope this guide helped you. Obviously, I haven't covered everything. You can do a lot with models. This is kind of the bare bones. It's a lot to take in, and if you need help, I will gladly try to help you in the comments. I mean, again, I don't know everything, but I will try the best I can. Yeah, I really hope this helped you, and yeah, I will see you in another tutorial if you choose to watch one. Bye.